Hello, welcome to my talk. My name is Joseph Mbele. I'm a Tanzanian. I teach here at St. Olaf College in Minnesota, United States of America. I'm in the English department, and I've been here since 1991. Before that, from 1976, I was at the University of Dar es Salaam, teaching in the Department of Literature. Now, outside of teaching, I'm a cultural consultant. I help people navigate cultural differences. I focus mostly on Americans and Africans. And the reason is simply that as an African who was born and raised on that continent in Tanzania, I'm knowledgeable about the African culture. And having lived here in the United States for many, many years, teaching, interacting with people and reading about them, I've gained a fair amount of understanding of American culture. So I concentrate on mostly Americans and Africans. And so I have a YouTube channel in which I express, my views, my perspectives on mostly these cultural issues that relate to Africans and Americans, but I also deal with the rest of the world from time to time. So sometimes I talk about globalization. Sometimes I talk about writing, Sometimes I talk about not so much politics, but things related to, life in general. So if you have a time, do check out my videos, and you'll see, you might be interested. There are many of these videos now. Today I want to just share some thoughts that occurred to me in a big way today. I've had these thoughts for a long time, and they center around the work of the American Chamber of Commerce in Tanzania. Yes, there's the American Chamber, in Tanzania. There's one in Kenya. I think, there are others in other places. So I was looking at the LinkedIn page of the American Chamber in Tanzania. I do that regularly because in recent years, as a cultural consultant, I have become very, very interested in working with people, in the business world. I've really focused on this area, helping talk about the cultural dimension of trade between Africans and Americans, business between Africans and Americans. And more recently, I've also broadened my horizons and my scope. I've been actually communicating with Latin Americans. I have had several invitations to speak to them about these topics, especially, relating to how Latin Americans can do business with Africans. Yes, the cultural dimensions. And I've been broadening my horizons that way. I also give a talk to a Russian company that's moved into African countries. At this point, they are in Tanzania, they are in Mozambique. They buy and sell grain. And so they were interested in learning from me issues such as how do they establish trust. That was a big part of their concerns. How do we establish trust with the Tanzanians, so that we can do business with them effectively? It was interesting. So the American Chamber of Commerce page, the LinkedIn page of the American Chamber of Commerce, is what inspired me to come out with this talk. And I am going to say what I'm going to say, keeping in mind that I had said something in my book here, Chickens in the Bus. I had said something that's also the foundation of my talk today. I think I will read this later. There's a paragraph that I'll read later. But the point is, looking at this page, the LinkedIn page, and looking at reports about, the things that the American Chamber is doing in Tanzania, records of meetings and, lectures, and shows, and just how this is represented. I was looking at recurring terms, when those American business people, officials, they talk, with the Tanzanians, they get together, with the Tanzanians. They talk about what they do. They talk about, business and promoting trade and collaborating and things like that. Absolutely. These are essential. This is part of their mission. But I was focusing on the terms they use. And so they talk about things like logistics. They talk about, investors. They use terms, like investors and customers and suppliers. They will use terms like leadership. They'll use terms like infrastructure. They talk about partners or partnerships, strengthening partnerships, things like that. They'll talk about supply chains. Those are the concepts, things like supply chains. And I wrote some notes here. They talk about deepening friendships, things like collaboration, things like collaboration. I was adjusting my video. Anyway, so I'm reading these things, and I am saying to myself, these are very important things, but they are abstractions. They are abstractions. And so as a cultural consultant, I'm telling myself, I would like to be part of these conversations so that when we say something like logistics, that I can immediately help people understand that there's no such thing as an autonomous entity called logistics. It's people who are involved. Yes, there's no such thing as logistics which exists independently of human beings. There are people who make it happen. Same thing when we talk about leadership. Yeah, we are talking about relationships among people. You know, the leaders and the people they lead, and the dynamics between these two sides. So the focus, you know, for me, should always be people. We talk about investors. So you might have Americans, you might have Africans, you know, you might have Indians, Chinese, and we just call them investors. As if they're similar, you know, they're just investors. And my thinking is we present this as if, you know, these are robots, investors. It's such an abstraction. And I would like to think about actual human beings who are, say, Americans, actual human beings who are Indian, actual human beings who are German, for example, or African. And that means a lot. That means a lot in order to just understand who these investors are. And so customers, you know, when business people meet, you know, officials meet, you know, they have their meetings, they talk about customers, they talk about suppliers, you know, partners. And when I hear these terms, you know, I know there's something big that's missing. And that something big is that these are actually human beings working together, you know, trying to collaborate. These are actually human beings making mistakes, misunderstanding one another, maybe failing to actually communicate because we come from different cultures and we differ in all these respects. Maybe, you know, these human beings that we call investors, you know, have real problems connecting with the local conditions, local, you know, people, you know, laborers, you know, managers. You talk about suppliers. These are people, and they have habits, they have sensibilities, they have values, they have ways of doing things. And these are the issues that concern me. Trade partners, strengthening partnerships. It's not easy. It's not easy, you know, when you start thinking about uniting, you know, or enabling people of different cultures to do these things, the partnerships. You know, if you're talking about people of different cultures, there are huge challenges. And it's time we began to actually think about this. And my role is to help people think about this. I can't expect, you know, everybody to do the work that I do, and I've done it for decades. I've gained a lot of experience. And I want to develop more, you know, this side of my work as a consultant. As I've said, I work with businesses now. And so, you know, the American Chamber of Commerce in Tanzania talks about, you know, seeking to deepen friendships. To deepen friendships, that's a great idea. It's a great ideal. But I'm looking at this and I'm saying to myself, how do you build friendship between people of different cultures? You know, it's complicated by the fact that we come from different perspectives, you know, and different understandings, you know, of what is proper behavior. For example, how do you express friendship in communication, in gift giving, you know, in the way we behave towards each other. It is a challenge, but I'm in the field, you know, where I deal with these challenges, and I'm interested in helping people overcome these challenges so that when they talk about deepening friendships, they really know, you know, how that works, the dynamics of it, and the culture is everything. So there was a dinner, again I read about this, a Thanksgiving dinner hosted by the American Chamber of Commerce. And there's a very good summary of what transpired, you know, and it said, I wrote some note here, that the dinner was not only to commemorate the spirit of Thanksgiving, but to celebrate the enduring partnership between Tanzania and the United States in fostering economic growth and mutual understanding. Fostering economic growth and mutual understanding. As a cultural consultant, I take these concepts very seriously and very deeply. So I was reading this and thinking about my own book, this one here, Africans and Americans, Embracing Cultural Differences. This is exactly what I'm doing here under the rubric of promoting mutual understanding. That's the whole subject, you know, of this book. And so I think my investigation of what's going on in the world of business and, you know, my understanding of the concepts, you know, that the people, you know, in business, in trade, the concepts they use is giving me a good sense of how I want to insert myself in those conversations. So I started off by saying there is a little paragraph in this book which is a sequel, The Africans and Americans Embracing Cultural Differences was my first one. I've talked about it again and again, published in 2005. In fact, this year, this spring, this is 2025. This is the year 2025, and it is spring of 2025. It's the 20th anniversary of this book. I already announced this in a previous video. Actually, I think it was my last video. This is the anniversary, and I also said I'm giving an offer, a discount, up to the end of this month. It's half priced, and there will be a link, you know, below this video where you can get the book. So I was saying there's a paragraph in this one here. This is a sequel. I published it in 2021. Yes, 2021. Yes, 2021. A very small book containing some little essays. So I had written here something about business. There's a whole chapter. These are little chapters. The chapter is called Culture and Business Between Africans and Americans. Culture and Business Between Africans and Americans. So the paragraph said this. When we talk about business, we tend to think about it as a relationship between commodities, services, and money. Yeah. When we talk about business, we tend to think about it as a relationship between commodities, services, and money. In fact, It is a relationship between human beings. And that's the point I'm trying to make today. Business is a relationship between human beings. We had in the habit of talking about, commodities and supply chains and prices and, the costs, the money, the profits, the loss. But I'm saying, in fact, it's a relationship between human beings who have values, feelings, and expectations influenced or shaped by their culture. And then I say business is easy if the people involved belong to the same culture. Otherwise, there are challenges. So I had said this in, a nutshell in this book, 2021. And, I then realized, what it is to be African, who the Africans are and who the Americans are, is something I addressed in this book. There are many topics, many ways, in which I differentiate the Americans and the Africans. And it's a book that has sold and is selling very well. Thousands of people have read it. And I'm glad it is really making an impact and fulfilling the aims, the goals that are intended for it. So, in brief, this is what's really on my mind right now, trying to dig deeper into these issues that the American Chamber of Commerce in Tanzania, is pursuing, and trying to merge that with my understanding of the cultural dimension of all of it, based on the premise that really, really all these things boil down to human beings interacting. And so, as I said, my intention going forward is to keep pushing this idea and finding a way to participate in those conversations so I can address a dimension that really is not being addressed. And I've seen this, over the years, and I'm learning a lot, and I'm excited about it. And so that's what I wanted to share today. Check the link at the bottom of this video. There's the link to my books. They are all available online. And feel free to contact me. I'll have my email address again, below this video. I'm available for talks. I give talks. I run workshops. And if you read the books, you'll probably be inspired to explore more the issues that are so crucial, especially in our world, which has now become a global village. That's it for today. Have a great, great day.